Hello, everyone, and welcome to Project Insight's Agile webinar. Today's topic is We Are the Scrum Team. We take total ownership for deliverables. And just a few things to know before we get started. All participants will be on mute. However, any questions you have are more than welcome. Please type them into the questions box, which you can find on your GoToWebinar dashboard. All of our PM and Agile webinars are valid for one PDU free of charge. However, you must be in attendance for the full session. PDU certificates will be sent by the end of the day, so please hold off on emailing us about your certificate until then. And for those of you interested in the recording and slides, they'll be sent via email by tomorrow, and you can also find them within our Project Insight community. My name is Alexa, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'm on the marketing team here at Project Insight, and if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to reach me at alexa.ortega-mendoza@projectinsight.com. And for those of you not familiar with us, Project Insight is dedicated to making project managers' lives easier and helping teams work better together with our web-based project management software for over 15 years. PI was named Best Project Management Solution at this year's SIA Cody Awards for continuing to innovate the project management industry. We offer project management software suitable for any size team's needs. And go ahead and request your free demo for our enterprise platform at projectinsight.net/trial. And we'd also like to invite you to sign up for PI Team, our newest user-friendly platform revolutionizing the project management game. And did we mention it's free? So you can go ahead and sign up at projectinsight.net/team. And of course, if you want more information about any of our products, feel free to contact our product experts, our PI pros, at the number or email listed below. So we'd like to give a warm welcome to our host today, Dr. Dave Cornelius. Dr. Dave is a value delivery leader at Biorad Laboratories. He influences cross-functional teams to deliver amazing quality products to delight customers. Dr. Dave is the founder of the 5 Saturdays program that empowers high school students through agility and innovation by providing learning experiences in technology and lean business. He's the author of the book Transforming Your Leadership Character, The Lean Thinking and Agility Way, and innovator of the game Agility Leadership. Dr. Dave produces a podcast on iTunes and Google Play titled Null Share with Dr. Dave and can be found hosted on grokshare.com. So with that, let's learn something new and exciting that you can use at work immediately.
Well, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having an awesome day today. Let me see if I have control here. Oh gosh, let's show my screen. Yeah. Sorry about that. Hey, Alexa, are you letting me? Am I driving, or are you driving from the presentation perspective? If it's me, I'm fine. I just brought up the presentation.
Yeah, I passed you over the presenter rights, so.
Okay, thank you. I will go from here.
Great.
Okay, so here we go. Thank you so much. I just want to let you know that I have a special guest with me today. Today, our guest is the Get Her Done team. And the team is made up of Tess Guevara, Michael Chern, and Dan Vo. But today, we only have Tess. So Tess, say hello to our audience.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. I mean, Tess, how are you doing?
I'm doing real good. Thank you.
Awesome.
I hope you are too.
Yes, thank you so much. So let's jump in with the overview. So the Scrum team is the builders of things, and they build software. You know, I think they're like one of the most important roles in the Scrum ecosystem. And the system is built up of, you know, what we call the Scrum team, the product owner, and Scrum master. And they're all peers. Some people may think that the product owner is more important or the Scrum master is more important, but I say the people who build things are more important. And each role provide a value that should be respected by everyone in the organization. The cool thing about Agile with teams is that teams have the autonomy to determine how and when to complete work. You know, sometimes this can be really confusing for some people with this great form of freedom. But as we walk through today, we'll look at different tools of how we help the teams to self-organize and for them to deliver the right value at the right time. And As we go through today, I'll be asking question of Tess, and she'll be giving you feedback based on her experience being part of the Scrum team. So our topics today, we're going to talk highly about the Agile values and principles, the Scrum team role. We'll do a little bit about peer programming and mobbing, and also self-organization, how teams really come together to get work done without someone managing them. Our learning objective is that we want to make sure we understand the Scrum team role and value. We learn about some of the Scrum ceremonies, and we discover how teams interact. So there's 4 Agile values, and I think this is the 3rd webinar that I've gone over these. And the first one is individuals and interaction over processes and tools, and working products over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. And so this was established back in 2001 in Utah, where 17, we call them the 17, who came together to kind of like lay out these values for us. And their thoughts are, it's like, look, while the things that we're talking about on the right, there's value there, but the things that we want to focus on is more on the left, about individuals and interactions, about working products, about customer collaboration, and about responding to change. And those are the 4 key things that we should take away from it. It's not like, yeah, we don't do documentation, and yeah, we don't have some level of negotiation, and we don't have processes and tools, but what's more important is the human factor, people, in making things work. There are 12 Agile principles, and the key things that most, all of these applies to the software team and the work that they do. But, number 3, it's a very important aspect, right? It's really frequent delivery of working software, because that's what they're doing. Number 4 is also critically important in terms of collaboration between the business stakeholders and developers throughout the project. 7, they look at working software as a primary measure of progress. And also, I like 8 a lot, because it's really about being able to work in a consistent way without being overworked, having to work overtime, where you can just work on a consistent cadence and get things done. Number 10 is really important about simplifying work. And as we talked before, that self-organizing teams, you give them the freedom to define architecture, some of the technical requirements and design. And at the end of it, number 12, that they take the time out to do a retrospective and see exactly how they're progressing, areas that they want to learn, and you have built in continual improvement. So the last time we talked about the Scrum framework, and I used Deming's Plan, Do, Check, Act, but we rephrase it as Plan, Do, Inspect, Act. And this really speaks to the work that is committed by the team, and everyone has a voice and contributes to the outcome. So it all begins with the product owner planning and prioritizing the backlog to make sure that the teams have something to work on. They have an opportunity to discuss and commit the work that needs to be done. It's executed and it's delivered, and they inspect and adapt. They go back and they review the work and see what was completed, and they have an opportunity to say, oh, these things didn't work very well. What are we going to change the next time? And so it's 4 key elements that you look at in the Scrum framework. You plan and prioritize, you discuss and commit, you execute and deliver, and you inspect and adapt. Now, we'll talk about the Scrum team role. And the Scrum team provides, some of the following values, right? I mean, they built the sprint backlog. They estimate the relative effort to complete user stories. They evaluate and commit to prioritize user stories, deliver quality work, and they take ownership of the software and product deliverables. And so this is primarily one of the key roles of the Scrum team itself and what it does. Look at some of the characteristics, and I'll go back to Scrum team role because I have a question for Tess here. And Tess, I want to ask you, how is your role as a Scrum team different from the traditional waterfall experience? I mean, and if we could try to come up with a response in about 1 to 2 minutes, that would be awesome. and no more than that. So if you could tell us, how is your role different now than when you worked as in a waterfall space?
Okay, way back in the waterfall days, my role is a QA automation developer. I was in charge of building and maintaining automation process for various projects. I was not involved in the requirements gathering and development process of the software. I was not even involved in estimation of work. We got the new development build and test in the QA environment. When we find bugs, we email the defect to the development team. They look at it and apply modifications, and then I get it back, and then we test, and then give my blessings after all the testing passes. The QA department signs off the work and let the product owner decide when to deploy the changes. In the new Scrum process, we have one role in the team. We are all developers. Each team member is involved in the work, whatever work is involved. For example, the work to be done from grooming the stories, planning, test first activities, mob coding, testing, preparing build materials, requesting builds, etc. As a team, we define our working agreement, definition of ready, and definition of done. And this helps in maintaining the focus of the work. So basically, that's the big difference, is that we're no longer different from one another, and I'm involved in the whole entire process.
Which is awesome, which means you guys become, a team truly and work as one, and there's no more tossing over they call the proverbial wall of when code is done.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's talk about the team characteristics. And so for me, I've been talking about micro teams for the last 2 years, 3 to 5 people, that keep them really small. They're self-organizing, they're independent, they're committed to outcomes, they're focused on maximizing value and quality. And so these are the key characteristics of the Agile team. And so Tess, also, what is your experience like working in a micro team of 3?
Actually, it's the best experience so far. It is small enough to hear what everyone has to say, and you get focused on each and every one with just 3 people involved. It allows closer interaction and discussions. It also offers the flexibility within the team without losing the focus on what we're trying to accomplish.
And so what is it like to also interact with other micro teams? Because I know you have experience where you're doing work to support other teams. What is that like?
It's a whole lot easier when there's only 3 people involved, because again, the focus is there, and when you interact, everybody understands the same thing, and there's no different interpretation of work to be done. What comes into place is really different ideas helping each other.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. So as you can see with micro teams, the dynamics also is focused on, being a cohesive unit and better interactions. So let's move on to the Scrum ecosystem. And so we have product owners who prioritize the backlog. We have the Scrum Master who helps coach with the Scrum framework. We have these activities, what we call the Scrum of Scrums, where one micro team has a dependency on the other. We have customers who have incidents that they require support. We have stakeholders that work is demoed for them. And then we have DevOps, which is really the teams who help us move software into our production environment and set that up. And so DevOps in itself as a practice really enabled us to move things faster to our production environment, basically on demand. And, this is something that's a work in progress throughout many companies in the world, where, once we're doing this whole Agile activity, we get software built fast, but then we get into this waterfall mode where we have to wait and get a cab, change activity board approval, which is called a cab. And then you have to, it could take you up to 2 weeks to a month to move software that's built in 2 weeks. So, this is really critical to have agility end to end. There's a certification that's offered in the Agile space for developers, and it's called the Scrum Alliance Certified Agile Developer, CSD. I just wanted to put that out there so people are aware that there's a certification for your team members if that's something that they have a desire for. So let's have a simple group interaction. And the question is, the Scrum team ecosystem consists of stakeholders, customers, product owner, Scrum master, other teams, and IT ops. Is this true or false? And so, Tess, while we wait for our participant to answer this question, so what is, and I'll ask you this question again in a different way. So just imagine you have to do work for another team. I mean, what kind of interaction do you have? Is it more of a scrum of scrums? Do you guys have special meetings to share ideas or requirements? What do you guys do?
Well, typically in the quarter, we have what we call the quarterly planning, where we plan our activities of work to be done within the quarter. So at that time, in the discussions, and actually that's also part of grooming and planning happening at the same time, you started realizing that, oh, doing this work has dependency on other teams. And we have what we call a dependency board there, where we put our little tag to show we have dependency on this thing by this sprint, this part of the quarter. And so you get a chance to discuss with other teams on, when this work can be done in alliance to the needs, their needs or our needs put together. And if there's like more discussions happening during the sprint, we discuss that in the Scrum of Scrums, which happens for us every Friday.
Which is awesome. So good. I think our participants are paying attention to us, Tess, that the answer is yes, true. 93%. Those are the people involved in the Scrum team ecosystem that they support and partner with. So let's keep moving. And we're going to talk about the Scrum ceremonies, what I call plan, build, learn. Those are the three things that happens. We spend time planning the work. We execute and build software, and then we learn what we did and see how we could improve. So one of the first things that's really important, and Tess spoke about this, is the definition of ready. And so it's a team's criteria of how do we begin to do work, right? I mean, do we have stories ready, right? Is a feature well defined? Is the user story well defined? Do we have a sprint backlog that we could work from to move forward? Are we release ready? I mean, do we have our IT ops involved? So one of the other key things that we use as a language in this is that, we need to have an acceptance criteria, right? And it helps us to identify the behaviors required to meet a delivery with a certain amount of quality. And I'm just going to put this out there, and you can look this up later. It's called behavior-driven development, or called BDD. It's one language that can be used, and it's really simple. It says given, when, then. Given, here are the givens. Here is, when this certain action takes place, then do this certain behavior. So perhaps go and take some time and look that up, because we could spend a lot of time digging into BDD. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that there is a language that defines the behavior of a certain software product from a customer context. We also have definition of done. And this is also something that the team defines as well, to let everyone know and let themselves know when things are done. So we said, well, what does it mean for a feature to be done? What does it mean for a story to be done? Also for a sprint or release to be done. So Tess, just really quickly, give us some just simple examples of what it's like to have a DOR or a DOD and what's in it.
Oh, this is the funniest thing, because a lot of people, even I myself, wasn't aware of how important it is to have a DOR and DOD until we start stumbling into a lot of, how do we do this? What is this? Then we realized, oh, we didn't discuss how we're supposed to really function as a team, and with the expectations of work and all that stuff. So my team decided to start writing a good definition of ready, definition of done material. Actually, it's a little longer than what most people would expect, but ours is very much, yes, somebody said, oh my God, this is 3 pages, but Ours start really from the start of sprint. And at the start of sprint, we state something like all PBIs and bug items within the new sprint has been well groomed. The functional and non-functional requirements are also discussed the same way, well groomed. The PBI should be either enhancements or new features, so we're clear on what we're doing. And then we also expect business value is clearly articulated so that we know when we design and start being an architect or the software designer that we need whatever is needed. It's like I said, we put a lot of detail there. And again, from the beginning of sprint, we said that, acceptance criteria has to be there, include the positive and negative acceptance conditions. And we also discussed when we call it bugs, and the creation and then we also went into other things such as, I told you ours is long, on the build process, what needs to be done and what we expect to do, like the build should be identified for production ready or evaluation only, and test results from evaluation only builds should have been identified, and corresponding work items should be created in the backlog. And then we also have release. We define what's happening in the release. Like development team should know ahead of time what will work items be included in the upcoming release, and development team should understand the impact of work items in the release. And then we also have definition. In our definition of done, we have end of sprint, where we say all the documentations and all the things should be checked in the TFS or source control, user story should be signed off and everything, and including the automation piece of the unit testing and automation work of regression testing and functional testings. Those are the things that we include in there. So it really is long because it's segmentized.
Well, it's an important declaration of what done means and what ready means, and there's no ambiguity. So, that's excellent, Tess. Let's keep moving. I think that's a great explanation of the things that's in a definition of ready, DOR, for definition of done, DOD. Now, let's talk about some of the activities. So we have release planning, where we start talking about a vision of what is to be achieved and when. It helps to guide the team during sprint planning, and they're beginning to lay out work. It helps to prioritize the user story itself, and it guides the team to make some of the great decisions on what are the trade-offs that we're going to look at. So if we look at a typical planning session where we have some major features, and we have sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4, and two of the major features, let's say that we're building a simple shopping cart, right? And so someone has to log in. It's role-based, and maybe you may want it to be single sign-on. And so we may lay those things out in advance and say, well, but when we go release planning, this is what we think, right, that we can get done within this time frame. And we look at the same thing for order entry. We said, okay, well, maybe we could get some stuff for the customer order entry completed by sprint 2. Maybe we could allow them to add products by sprint 3 and shipping by sprint 4. Now, sprints are generally 2 weeks long. So within 2 months, essentially, we kind of have a shopping cart and an order entry system that's put together with security. And we haven't added anything else for accepting credit cards or anything like that, but this is enough for our customers to begin to start kicking the tires and say, yeah, this is good, this isn't good, right? Once we get to our sprint review. Now, sprint planning takes all of that into consideration, and we start looking at what is the highest features that the product owner has defined. The team is a great opportunity to understand more context and clarity around the user stories. And so we can start setting out sprint goals. What do we want to achieve for that sprint? And then the teams go forward and create a sprint backlog, which is normally 2 weeks worth of work. So when you think of a sprint goal, we could just set something up like, implement basic shopping cart functionality. That's what we want to get done for the sprint. We just made a declaration. And with that, we'll be able to fill in the actual work, like the user stories that needs to be done. And I know Tess used a term called PBI, which is a product backlog item. So here's a typical example of, if you're doing sprint planning, what this would look like. So I have sprint 1, and we say we have a capacity for the team of about 30 story points. So let's think of a story point as being 1 man day. So 30 days is what we have of work capacity. And so load is like how much work we're going to actually do. We know we have 30, we're going to stretch ourselves and do 5 more. We have a specification of when it starts and a specification of when it ends. But also we have, Bob, who's going to be out of the office for 9:15 and 9:22. So one of the things of our planning is also to take into account when we have a reduced capacity. So we may relook at this and say, well, you know what? Bob isn't going to be here for 2 days, so our capacity really isn't 30. Maybe our capacity is 25, right? Because Bob, maybe he's a contributor of about 5 story points. Then that would cause us to also look at our load and say, let's readjust that too, so we could be more realistic. As part of sprint planning, we have user stories that are defined. We provide some level of estimates in terms of how many story points it would take. And in this case, we're talking about man days. So it takes about 2 man days to do the purchase shopping cart theme, which is the design work. And so, if we're purchasing one or so we may have some risk there. So we don't know how this shopping, we do not know the shopping cart product because it's something new to us. So as you can see, there is a lot of conversation by the teams in terms of what they know or they don't know amongst each other. There's another activity which we call the daily scrum or stand-up. This is a 15-minute check-in by the team. The team comes and said, hey, these are the things that, what I did yesterday, what I plan to do today, what is blocking my success, which is what we call impediment. So in 15 minutes, everyone has an opportunity to speak, to share their experience, and the Scrum Master also has the opportunity to resolve some of these impediments that's blocking the team from success. That's their job. So sometimes, the impediment could be like, hey, we do not have a database set up yet for us to move forward. So can you go work with the DBA team? And this is something that the Scrum Master would do. Sprint execution. This is where we actually produce the committed work, right? So the team, they code and test. The product owner, they review, finish user stories. And then the Scrum Master remove impediments. So you can see the ecosystem again as we're executing. The teams are building, coding and testing their software, and they put it in a state of said, okay, our software is tested. Then the product owner would look at that in the system and said, okay, yeah, this is tested. Let me make sure that this really meets the acceptance criteria for the customer, and they can move that forward. So sprint review, another critical and important event, which is what comes to the end of a sprint. This is where we get a chance to review all of the work we have done at the end of 2 weeks. So the people who participate, you would have the team, obviously there. We'll have stakeholders. We'll have the Scrum Master and the product owner. Everyone gets a chance to review the work that has been done. So everyone gets to come and see what's going on. Great demo of work that's been finished. We talked about impediments that's really blocking. Look at the sprint goals of what was said. Did we complete those? Yay. Everyone gets high fives, and that's a great thing. Or if they're not done, then we start to investigate. Well, how can we shift this so we can make sure we can meet our objectives next time? Because sometimes new teams tend to be a bit zealous and think that they could do more than they can. And sometimes experienced teams do less than they're capable of because they just get into a comfortable groove. So these are some of the challenges that teams have to put forth for themselves to get better. Customer, the most important thing is, and one of the principles is receiving customer feedback. And customers said, yeah, I like the screen, we like the colors, we like the navigation, we like the way things are working. This is really great. Oh, you know what? This is really kind of clunky for us. And so it gives a great opportunity for the teams to hear what the customer wants firsthand. And those customers could be internal. It could be the product owner representing an external customer as well. Retrospectives, I think, is really important for us to look back and understand, what was our progress during the sprint? Was this effective? And the Scrum Master and the Scrum team gets together to do this. And, the team themselves could go forward and do it without the Scrum Master, but then someone in the team has to step in and facilitate the actual retrospective. It needs a facilitator. So we always want to know what went well, what did not go well, and what can we change. These, again, are just 3 simple questions that people could sit down. And we also have great games that we play that helps to ask these questions a little bit differently. Like one of my favorites is what they call speedboat. It comes from innovation games. So we may set up a speedboat, and let me change that to a sailboat. The one that I really like is that a sailboat, and you could draw up a big picture on a piece of paper. It just says, here's a big sailboat, some water, some sun, a sail, and one question, what went well, is wind in my sail. How is that wind helping my boat to move forward? The other thing is that you have an anchor in a boat. So what's weighing me down? That's something that did not go well. And we said, well, what can we change based on what we see? Keep all the good things, and let's pick at least one thing to improve each sprint. Now, if you think about it, that gives us in a year an opportunity to improve somewhere between 24 to 20. We have 24 to 26 improvements throughout a year, which is huge. In most organizations, it's hard to even get one improvement through in a year. So let's talk about group interactions. And while we're interacting, I'm going to have a dialogue with Tess while you guys are thinking about this question. So the Scrum ceremonies include A, release planning, B, sprint planning, C, daily stand-up in Scrum, D, sprint review, E, retrospective, or F, all of the above. And so Tess, while our listeners are out there working on this, tell me, what is your favorite ceremony in the Scrum practice?
The favorite, it's really the retrospective ceremony. This is when we get a chance to look back over the 10 days of sprint and identify what works, what didn't work, and how can we improve it, or how can we make it work better. We also talk about what we can work on and focus on to keep the team dynamics flowing. So it's not just about work, it's also the interaction within the team that we discuss this thing. It's kind of fun because it's presented in there are many different ways you can do it, like the example that you see with the boat. You say with the boat, there's many other things, but it's always fresh for us.
That's awesome. Let's see what our listeners have to say today. Great. I think we all agree that 84% believe that it's all of the above. Yes, all of these things are part of our ceremonies. We're going to keep moving. So we have some in engineering practices. We look at those things as intentional acts, collaboration, and leadership, things that help us to get better. So continual learning is really important for us, right? And that's why we do retrospectives. And we want to encourage people to grow and learn and have new skills. It's really important for us to create an environment to experience and allow teams to get better at agility. And when we think of agility, the word agile means to be nimble, right? And so when we think of agility, we're thinking in the context of inspect and adapt and to have continual learning. We have to focus on what's working for the team so that they can continue to get better at those things and really amplify the goodness. We have to build a community where it's important for us to work together and learn new things, to present new knowledge to each other. Another key element that we talk about in this activity of agility is peer program. So you think of a pilot. You have a pilot and a co-pilot who are working together, safety, learning. Peer programming is kind of the same, where you have two people really sharing one computer and building software together. I mean, this is for quality. This is for learning. It's really a great experience for some people. For others who are not really interested in having other people invade their space, it could be that way because you have one computer, right? You have a navigator and a driver, and the driver pretty much listens to what the navigator says. You know, he's just hands-on keyboard as what people would call a human-machine interface of really, you know, trying to get that done. The navigator said, well, you know, write this code in this way. And we want the driver to just listen and go forward with that. And that's really hard for some people. We switch every 15 minutes. Some people go a little tighter, every 7 minutes. But in either way, you know, you have people who are going back and forth between the driver and navigator. So no one is always in one position. There's an opportunity for people to learn from each other. A new concept, and that's that new, but mobbing, which is what I call, it's just, it uses a single computer, keyboard, and a large monitor as a human-machine interface. All team members work together. So I call mobbing team peering, which is kind of interesting because it's nothing more than just that. It's team peering, where you have many members of the team working together to solve a single problem. You have many navigators and one driver at the same time. So that's the difference, in that you have several people who may observe something and everyone speaks one at a time. Not everyone speaks together. So there has to be some level of control where each people have a certain level of restraint, that they're not all trying to talk together at the same time, because the driver will become really confused. Also, people are switching every 15 minutes. Some people do every 7 minutes, or even 10 minutes, but it keeps it fresh when you have people who are in their coding, thinking, and looking at solving the problems together as a team. We also have the product owner, who is always there. And before, we talked about the product owner, and they're the one who prioritizes the backlog and really represents the voice of the customer. There's another great engineering practice called acceptance test-driven development, where it really talks about the software behavior from, you know, what it looks like from an outside an observer, right? And so it's not written in code; it's written in English language. You know, something like behavior-driven development. So, you know, you could do things like, you know, given my bank account has money, you know, when I put my ATM card in to get $10, then the ATM gives me $10. So really simple, you know, where it says given, when, then. Now that's an observable behavior that we could look at, and we could get to a positive solution with that. And it's easier for the team and for the product owner to communicate on that level. Now, this helps to reduce the amount of defects that we have, and really helps to improve the team's understanding of what the customer wants. We get much better software designs, you know, when we leverage this language. So here's a simple user acceptance test that I've put together. So given my bank account has funds, and I made no withdrawals recently, when I attempt to withdraw an amount less than my balance, then the withdrawal should complete without error. So really simple language. Given, here are the givens, you know, when there are these conditions, then do these actions. Really simple user acceptance test language, and this helps to build with ATDD, acceptance test driven development, or people call it behavior driven development. Now, the other part of that's really critical for the integration of our systems with moving stuff to production is what we call DevOps, which is continuous integration and continuous deployment. We have to look at this in a way of how do we optimize the entire process, where it's not, you know, we build some software and we throw it over the fence to some guy in IT to go deploy for us. You know, we have to get to the point where they're involved from the start of the project and the initiative, and we're all working together to get to the same goal. It helps to reduce the amount of friction and increases more cooperation between IT and the software development team, because that could be a contentious situation. Now, with that, you know, we could have this amazing faster time to to production when we have this type of relationship where it's easier. So continuous integration is just simply the fact that I built some code, I could check it in and test it using automation. Lots of automation in this process to make sure we can get things done faster. So this gives a great feedback to the developer, and so they have an opportunity to make a fix, right there in the spot. And then we have the same thing with continuous deployment, and so I could build a piece of software and deploy it multiple times to different environments. So it's really interesting. You look at a company like Amazon, and their continuous deployment cycle is like something every 11.6 seconds, they're deploying something to production. Well, the only way you could get there, they think about that, every 11.67 seconds, there's software being pushed to production to provide customer value. That's an amazing thing to get to. Most companies do not have that, but that means there's no friction between the software developers and the IT team. It's all automation. Things are automatically tested, and you have the approvals for certain actions, and that's done way up front, where people have these agreements. We get through continual learning, which is really important, right? And where we encourage teams to learn daily. We have experiments. People could experiment in different things, and we're not against that. We're for that, because we know as people experiment, they learn new things. We believe in learning fast. Failure is a great teacher. And so we encourage people to try new things. And if you fail, okay, what did we learn? How do we improve on that? And we constantly ask those questions. We have an incremental delivery, and this helps to build confidence. It's nothing like every 2 weeks you're seeing software go in and it's working and you're getting customer feedback versus waiting 9 months to find out that, geez, this is terrible. Right? This is a failure. I mean, there's nothing more demoralizing than that. We want to build up emergent leadership, and I've spoken about emergent leadership several times. And this is where we take an opportunity to lead without asking permission. When there's a moment, go after it, take it. You have that permission to do that in an agile team. And the thing is, every time you go forward and take a chance, a risk, and it's a limited risk because we're experimenting. It helps to increase your ability, gets better over time. And look, it's not limited to any one person. Anyone could do this on the team. Any matter of fact, anyone could do this in an organization. It's just you have to deal with the bounded autonomy. What are the areas that I could go to and I have influence and people are not going to whack me over the head? So we're going to get into our group interaction number 3 and give us enough time for questions. Let's talk about, so DevOps reduces friction and encourages more cooperation between developers and IT. Is this A, true, or B, false? And so while people are thinking about this, Tess, so talk to me about some of the activities that you do to improve as a team.
To improve as a team? Oh my gosh.
For continual learning, yeah, what are the things that you
do? Well, to improve, first and foremost, we try not only to improve our relationship with each other, but we look for topics to learn. We look for webinars that, can help us. We practice the peer programming, the sharing of thoughts and the stuff. We do mobbing. We try to go to conferences. And Pluralsight is a very, very effective tool for us to learn. So sometimes we have things that we wanted to learn. How do you implement some such thing? It's always in Pluralsight.
That's true. So let's see where people are in terms of answering our questions.
Hold on, Dave. I'm just going to close my computer.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem. How about Learning Fridays, Tess? Oh, here we come back. Oh, 97% said that is true. That's correct. A is the right answer. Great job, team. And so, this is really powerful stuff using DevOps. So, let's see. Let's get back to, so to summarize before we go to Q&A, the Scrum teams are the builders of things, which I didn't want to use. I like to use bot, but bot is already used to mean robots, and they're not that. The great thing is that when we have sprint reviews and we have frequent customer feedback, it really gives us clarity and onto what needs to be done. It's very interactive and it's very iterative, which really means that we could solve things a lot faster and by learning fast, right? And doing limited experiments. Look, there's tangible value that's received often by the customers, and they have an opportunity to, really experience what was done by the team, at an early point. But before we go to questions, I have one last question for you, Tess. Tell me, what is the biggest challenge that you faced as an Agile team?
Oh, okay. Since the company is not fully Agile yet, and we are still in what you call the transformation stage, we stumbled to the common problem that everyone transitioning to Agile experiences. While development and Scrum Master are operating within the Agile practices, we had problem with our product owners who are still not very Agile. It is difficult to get into the full scope of the requirement. And so we also experienced, problems with the team, like in the beginning, the typical problem about the development of forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. We went through that, and really, as long as your goal is really to make it work, you eventually come to the norming and performing stage.
That's really great. That is something that all teams go through: the forming, storming, norming, and performing. So, Alexa, it's 8:46. Let's open it up to our wonderful friends out there.
Great.
What questions do you have?
We already have a couple questions here.
Okay.
So one is, in Scrum development environment, is the product manager called as product owner and project manager a Scrum master?
So I'll take that. So the product manager and product owners in most companies, if they're bigger, and we talked about that maybe 2 webinars ago, they're generally 2 discrete roles. So the product manager generally is more customer facing, external facing, and oftentimes product owners are more internal facing. So that's the difference between both roles. And the product owner generally works with the product manager. That's in larger companies. In smaller companies, sometimes the product manager and product owner are the same roles. Last month we talked about the Scrum Master role, and I've done another webinar about the role of project managers in the lean and agile world. Is that the project managers can be Scrum Masters, but also project managers can become product owners. If they have great product knowledge, then they can easily become a product owner as well.
Great. And so another question here is, what if the customer wants a change? Say the customer didn't like the login page or the type of login. Does the fix or change happen in Sprint 2?
Tess, I'm going to pass it on to Tess so she could get in on some of these questions.
Okay. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure. So what if the customer wants a change? Say the customer didn't like the login page or the type of login. Does the fix or change happen in Sprint 2?
Well, Agile is Agile. It should be ready for any kind of change. If that at that point that you probably do a demo, I think that the time that they will see, I don't know if the question is the current existing login or the time you do the demo that they didn't like it. At least by the time that you do the demo and they didn't like it, you have another 2 weeks to work on it, so you didn't lose that much time. And it's the process of Agile is really doing and hearing the customer's voice, so implementing whatever they want.
And that's true. So, I mean, one thing that could happen if you did in Sprint 1, you did a demo of a login page and they didn't like it, or there was an existing login page that they said, hey, we would like this change. Yes, you can. This product owner can prioritize that change for Sprint 2 if they choose. If that's what's the next sprint coming up.
Got it. And then so a follow-up question to that previous question would be, if the customer doesn't like it, then does it get released?
No, it never. The customer has to actually approve the work, right? We don't release work without customer approval.
Okay, great. And then so we have one last question here. When going to Agile from Waterfall, if you have specialists like DBAs who don't write application code, do you expect they will have to learn how to write code?
No, we don't expect them to have to write code. We just expect them to work within the Agile framework. And, besides Scrum, there's another practice called Kanban, which is more of a lean approach. And so we normally get them to work within that context. But no, we don't expect them to write code. And, I'm not going to take a network specialist and turn them into a software engineer. I mean, that's what they do. And we need people to be DBAs, and we need people to be, network experts. We need that. So, that's how we roll with that.
Great. So that's it for the questions on this end.
All right. Well, I'll just say thank you to Tess for being here today. Thanks for giving your time for doing this.
Thank you also. I had fun.
Awesome. So we're going to walk through just some basic information. So nullshare.org, we have basically, we're more about leadership, agility, training. We help organization, really do assessment and strategy coaching, and really help people to move forward in their journey with the Agile experience and building software better. Just released the latest set of cards called Agility Leader Shift. This is number 3, volume number 3. We have some few new games around that. If you go to agilityleadershift.com, you can go and order those cards as well. My current book is called Transforming Your Leadership Character, The Lean Thinking and Agility Way. You can get that on Amazon. And also, I'll let you guys know that my other book is coming out maybe in October. It's called Elastic Minds, What Are You Thinking? So we'll have a second book coming out in October. And so probably announce that you guys can start pre-ordering if that's something of interest to you, which it should be. I'm also involved with educational outreach, where we teach high school students agilities, technology, lean business activities. If you guys really are passionate about our future, go to the number 5 Saturdays.org and donate. Donate your time, donate your resources. To help us continue to have much better software engineers, people involved with the STEAM environment. I do a podcast called I'll share with Dr. Dave, which is on iTunes and on Google Play. But you could also just go out to grokshare.com if you grok it, and listen to some of the podcasts there for free. Reach out to Nullshare. You can go to www.nullshare.org. You can send an email to customercare@nullshare.org, or just tweet with us at Nullshare, and you can blog with us as well. And so next month is the final webinar in this Agile series, and it's called Test First, Then Code. And we'll introduce you to a technique of how we perform analysis before writing software and how we build quality in. So that would be the final Agile webinar for 2017. And in 2018, we hope to come back to talk more about leadership in agility. So again, Tess, did you have a good time? Any parting words you want for our audience before you take off?
Oh, the Test First is really exciting. Look forward to that.
Yeah, maybe you'll participate next month again.
Yes.
Okay. Alexa?
Great. So thanks, Dr. Dave and Tess. So we have just a few more slides for you here. Let's see. Great. So just a quick note about the PDUs. You will automatically receive your PDU certificate via email. And for further questions, you can always email me at alexa.ortega-mendoza@projectinsight.com. and you'll earn 1 PDU for each webinar session attended. Go ahead and register your PDUs at pmi.org, and then go ahead and enter all the course information that you see below. And for those of you on social media, we'd like to invite you to share, like, and subscribe to our social media channels. Our handle on Twitter is @ProjectInsight, and you can also find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for the latest in PI and project management news. And in our Project Insight community, you'll find many recorded videos and webinars for you to watch and learn from. You can sign up for your next webinar, Agile webinar, or check out the rest of our webinars by visiting our webinar calendar and registering for as many as you'd like. And that's all we have for you today. We'd like to thank our presenter, Dr. Dave and Tess, for a great session, and of course, our audience for your time. We hope to have you on board for our next webinar. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.